Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. Today we're in our A-4E Skyhawk and we're looking at the cockpit and the cockpit instruments. So first thing to say, this does not comply to the usual official DCS model setup. So you usually get two types of model in DCS. You get low fidelity and high fidelity. Low fidelity, about 20 to 30% of the instruments and controls and switches are interactive. Passively only. That's for low fidelity. For a high fidelity model, either the more expensive ones, then 99.9% of the instruments and gauges and stuff are interactive passively and or actively. This being a non-official model is somewhere in the middle really. It has about 70% of its controls and instruments interactive at the moment, passively and actively. Now that's liable to change. It's important to point out I'm on version 1.02 of the Skyhawk at the moment. As further versions come out, it's likely that more of the instruments are going to become interactive, so we just need to bear that in mind. We're going to go through the usual route to the cockpit. We're going to start on the left rear. We're going to work our way over for the dash and over to the rear right. So let's get started. At the very back here we have an emergency speed brake release here, just in case our normal speed brake control doesn't work. Here we have our oxygen panel. Nothing on here is modeled, nothing is clickable, and it probably never will be, I don't imagine. But next we have GCBS panel here. Nothing here is interactive and clickable. Basically anything that's not interactive and clickable we're just going to breeze over because there's no point of talking about it. Here we have a canopy locked, forward for lock and back for unlock. You use our left mouse and right mouse click button. Here we have our AFCS, automatic flight control system, or autopilot as I like to say, standby or off master mode, whether you want it engaged or not engaged. Altitude hold here, heading hold or heading, yeah, well that's heading hold there. We've got the heading set here, so you use your mouse scroll wheel to set the heading and the heading will be displayed here. Stability augmentation, no one seems to be sure whether that's implemented at the moment. It says unimplemented here, but some people think it is implemented. That's basically your stability or your dampening like you'd get with the F5 Tiger. Here is the trim, the aileron trim in normal position. You can trim normally. If that fails, then you have emergency trim down here. And again, I'm not really sure if that's implemented yet. Here we have the radar. So here we have our compensation for angle of attack, regards where the radar zero position is in terms of elevation. We go into this panel a lot more obviously in the radar video. Master mode off, standby, search, terrain clearance or air to ground. So that's the master mode there. Volume for the warning, for the obstacle warning, and we've got the elevation tilt here, so whether you want the antenna tilted up to 10 degrees or down to negative 15 degrees in elevation, you can use mouse scroll wheel or click left and hold. This chap here, I can't find what he is, and as far as I'm aware it doesn't do anything. A lot of buttons and switches here that are non-interactive. Everything around here is non-interactive apart from this, the main start button for your start procedure. Here we've got the rudder trim, and we can click and drag like that and you can see the pedals trimming there, or you can use mouse scroll wheel. Here we've got the main throttle lever. Well, to uncage it, you need to right click twice to get it in a mode where it can actually move. Here is the friction lock here, it's non-interactive. Jettison the safe switch, non-interactive. Arm off, so these two switches are non-interactive. JTO, I believe, is not interactive. This is the APC, automatic power and compensator. I've got a video on that, whether you want master mode off, standby or it engaged. And the weather or the temperature compensator, whether the temperature outside is hot, normal or cold. And here we have the spoiler arm, so with the arm position then the spoilers are going to raise above the wings. I don't really know a lot about spoilers, by the way. In fact, I think it's our first plane that we've had in DCS with spoilers. I'd like to know more about them if you guys care to fill me in on that. I don't mean, yeah, they spoil the air above the wing, mate. I mean, how do they really work? What are they actually used for? Is it air pressure differentials, or how does it work? I'd be interested in knowing that, please. Nothing on the sidewall here is interactive. Next we've got our external gun pod station controls. So we've got station here, our left gun pod, center gun pod, right gun pod, whether you want them turned on and activated or whether you want them safe. And the master mode for that, whether you want it off, whether you need to clear a jam or whether you want them charged. You'll need it in charge to be able to fire them. Next, our gear indicator, front nose gear, left gear, rear gear and right rear gear. Flap indicator, and rather than being kind of stepped, it is completely maneuverable. at any angle, so I'm moving up, there, down. It does not represent the actual angle, so the flaps will not be down at 90 degrees there, so they'll be more like about 60 to 70 degrees. Next, emergency gear release. So in case the normal gear handle here doesn't work, you've got emergency gear release. I'm not sure if that's a gravity drop or a pneumatic drop. I'd like to know that, if you guys can fill me in, please. Our main gear handle here is in the down position. If it rotates up like this, it's in the up position. You press the G key to activate it. Here is our angle of attack gauge here. Now, I've no idea why it's so far down. I hate it when they put it so far down. It's something you need to see in the spur of the moment, so having it down here is just a real pain in the butt, in my opinion. I find it quite hard to use. You've got 0 there, you've got plus 30 there, and I think it goes a little bit higher, and down to negative 10 there. Here, a indicator panel. Let's see if we can test that. So, fuel boost, control hydraulics, utility hydraulics, fuel trans, not sure what that one is, speed brake is open, and spoilers are extended. Next, our vertical speed gauge here. If we are climbing, then this tells us how far we are climbing in thousands of feet per minute, I believe. It doesn't say in the manual, but I think that's 4,000 feet per minute, 4,000 feet per minute dive. Our standard barometric altimeter here. Hundreds of feet shown around the outside there. Our absolute here, so that's thousands there, and that's hundreds of feet there. Here is our QFE, currently set to our Q and H, and we can adjust our QFE there. Measured in inches mercury, I believe that is. You can zero the altimeter with this knob here, with left click and drag, or mouse scroll wheel. Our speedo, indicated airspeed in knots, is a bit funny to look at to begin with, but you get used to it. And we got up to 600 knots, or 700 I guess, and this is the Mach around the outside. We've got the gun sight control here, whether you want it on day mode or night mode, that just changes the brightness, and you can change the brightness here with this knob, click and drag, or mouse scroll wheel. Here are our countermeasure dispensing units. We can have the power on or off. Here is the quantity that we've got, and we can adjust that manually. We've got whether we want just chaff in one position, both a chaff and flare, or just flare. Got auto switch here. I have not managed to work out what that does, and it doesn't seem to say in the manual, so if anyone knows what that does or if it functions, let me know please. Okay, let's jump up here. I can't see it at the moment, but we've got the APC automatic power compensator standby light here, and the angle of attack indexer here that tells you if you are on your angle of attack with a circle of 8 degrees, whether you are above your angle of attack with an arrow there, below your angle of attack there. It's the desired angle of attack for landing. Here is the gun sight. I don't know how to read it. All I know is that bore sight is at the center there. We can adjust our gun sight depression here in millimeters by clicking left click and drag down with the mouse. You can see 60 mils depression, 80 mils depression, and that's for setting up for bombs and rockets and whatnot, where you need to add lead to the shot. Master warning panel here. See if I can get it to light up. So we've got wheel warning, labs warning, not yet implemented I believe, laws. This is a warning for the radar altimeter, as we'll have a look at in a bit. Obstruction or obstacle, this is related to the radar here, the terrain radar, if there is an obstacle less than 1,000 feet in front of us or below us. And the IFF, I believe this is not working at the moment and probably never will do as far as I'm aware. Next we have the labs timer. This is all about high altitude bombing, not implemented yet as far as I'm aware. Primary ADI, this tells us our attitude, whether we're rolling and whether we're climbing in the pitch. Also it tells us whether we've got yaw slip on. We've got a slip gauge here. We go up in tens of degrees, so 10, 20, 30 degrees, minus 10, 20, 30, and it's got a bearing compass as you can see, or a heading compass there. We cannot adjust it at the moment, not sure why, but cannot adjust it, cannot cage it. We've got our HSI, horizontal situation indicator here. We've got two needles. They do cause me a little bit of confusion. What I can say is that when the navigation is driven by TACAN, only the double-edged needle works, at least in the version that I've got. When it's driven by the onboard Doppler navigation system, it drives both needles and they point to the same place. And obviously we've got the compass rose around the outside. If we are heading towards the target of interest we've got selected, the navigation point of interest, they will be in the 12 o'clock position, the needles. And here we have our distance meter. It's currently set off, but it tells us the distance to our next selected nav point of interest in single units, tens of units, and hundreds of units, and they are nautical miles. and we cannot adjust or whatever that knob would be there. Next, emergency release. If we need to emergency release some or all of our ordnance, then we can choose which here. We've got all pylons selected there, pylon 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or just the wing pylons. Select them and then pull the emergency release, and that will release the ordnance. I think we're going to take a different route now, jump up to the radar. So this is the terrain or ground radar. It has several uses. I have a full 20-minute video on this, so I'm not going to go through it completely. It's turned off at the moment. We have a glass filter there. We can change the brightness there. We can change the storage time there. As far as I can see, it doesn't work at the moment, but I may be wrong. We can change the gain of the radar there. This is left click and pull the mouse, or you can use mouse scroll wheel. Change the detail there, which does different things on different modes. We've got the distance there shown, or the range there when in E-scope mode, and the range there when in B-scope mode. Reticle control here, I can't work out what that does. If anyone knows, let me know please. We've got the clock here. It is just a basic clock. It works and it's accurate. We've got the oil pressure warning light here. If oil gets low, this will shine. We've got a fire light here. If there's a fire on board, then that will show. Here is our pressure ratio. This is basically the current output of the engine. I don't understand pressure ratios. If someone could explain that to me, I would like to know more about that, please. But it's basically how much power the engine's putting out at the moment. Here we have our current oil pressure, and you can see it's down at 50 psi or 45 psi, something like that at the moment. Here we have our engine tachometer. It's the percent that the internal engine core is running at. So we're currently running at 56% of speed. Revolutions per minute, RPM. Next, exhaust gas temperature. Currently the exhaust temperature is 340 degrees C metric, and our maximum is 650. If we go above that, then we're going to melt something, or more likely the engine will just shut itself down. Fuel quantity here in thousands of pounds up to 6,500 pounds. Fuel flow here in pounds per hour times, is it 1,000 or 100? I can't see. Let's see if we can move that. Yep, times 1,000. Radar altimeter here, so it's what it says, up to 5,000 feet. It's a really good one. I've tested it and it works really well. And you can change the warning. So on this knob here, mouse scroll wheel, you can change when it gives you a warning. So if we're 600, then when we get down to 600 feet radar, it will give us a warning in the form of the laws and an audio beep. Next, our backup ADI. We can cage this one and we can adjust it. Left click to cage and mouse scroll wheel to adjust. Quantity of liquid oxygen on board, measurement units, I'm not sure, and there is a low warning there. This chap here seems a bit controversial. I think it's to do with the labs indicator. I'm just not sure. I haven't managed it to actually do anything yet. In range, set range and dive. So we'll have to see later on. Obviously tests the warnings and whatnot. BDHI controls which navigation system is controlling the needle on the HSI. Nav computer is the main Doppler nav, the TACAN is the TACAN, and this one I believe at the bottom is going to be ADF when we get ADF. We don't have it at the moment. A volume knob for the walleye and the shrike. The knob is not yet implemented, doesn't do anything. This knob doesn't do anything. Two controls for the radar, whether you want it in E-scope or B-scope mode. Whether you want the radar in long range mode or short range mode, the display of the radar that is. Fuel external, whether you want to the fuel quantity here to show the external stores of fuel, and we don't have any at the moment, so it won't let us turn it on. This chap doesn't do anything. Pylon selectants for weapons. So if I wanted to fire pylons 5 and 1, I would put them up like that. They're in neutral, safe position at the moment. Main arm for bombs and apparently for rockets as well, though I'm not sure about that. Whether you want whether you want your tail fuse or whether you want your nose and tail fuse. Internal gun, 220mm cannons, whether you want them safed or ready to fire. Main weapons firing mode, whether you want it off. Rockets, GM unarm, haven't figured out what that is. Spray tank for spraying Agent Orange. Labs for the labs that I don't believe is implemented yet. Bombs, this does everything else that's not been described so far. Master arm on or off. Cabin pressure, haven't been able to find anything about this, what unit it's measured in, and whether it's the difference between the cabin pressure and the ambient or not, I'm not sure. Probably just normal cabin pressure. Weapons or drop selection, how many weapons you want to ripple or step. at the relevant press of the weapon release button. The drop interval in milliseconds for a ripple. Here, whether you want to times that by 10, in which case that would then be 500, that would be 2000 milliseconds. Whether you want step single, step pairs, or step salvo, I explained these properly in the bombing and the rockets video, so I won't go through it now. Also note that in the next version, this is going to change slightly. And ripples, single, pairs, or salvo. That's that. That's all that lot done. Next, we're going to jump over to here. This is Mavis. I'm going to try and change this to Stahl when I get a minute. Emergency generator, in case you need to deploy the emergency generator. I haven't had to do that yet. Trim. Nose trim. So this is the pitch up and down in degrees. This is a trim. Now, I'm not sure if this is rudder or aileron, so please let me know. I think it's aileron, but I stand to be corrected. Next is the Doppler navigation system. Now, I like nothing more than a good Doppler navigation system. It's old, it's quirky, it's unreliable, but it's just awesome. Now, I've done a full 20-minute video about this, and we're not going to go through it other than to say we need to tell the Doppler system what type of terrain we're going over. Are we going over land? Are we going over sea? And whatnot. Here is the drift angle for the nav system. If you want to know more about this, I cover it fully in the MI8 navigation Doppler system. And so I'm not sure whether this is working in the current version of the Seahawk or not. Yeah, I've not tried it. I don't think it is. Here are adjuster knobs and they don't work. Here is the main nav system. Here is our present position in long and lat. And here are adjuster knobs, destination waypoint selected, the current waypoint selected, and adjuster knobs. Magnetic variance, talk about all this in the tutorial. Master mode here, whether you want the standby, off, test, waypoint 1, waypoint 2. Wind correction and direction, you'll need to wind speed correction and wind... You know what I'm trying to say. Wind speed and wind direction correction for the Doppler nav system here. Not sure what this is here. I guess just where you would write your waypoints specification. UHF radio currently not working but implemented. So let's go through it. This is going to be the channel selector, preset selector for the presets that you would set in the mission editor. Here is the master mode, whether you want that, whether you want manual, in which case you would tune it manually here, or whether you want to listen to guard and transmit. So guard is a frequency that you would listen to, that everyone essentially can listen to, and you would be transmitting though through your normal manual, I believe, frequency. Here, knobs to change the manual frequency, left click and drag, although not appear to work. Oh yes, they do, left click and right click to do so. That's that. Whether you want squelch disable, that gets rid of the hissing sound on the radar radio if turned on. Master volume, click and drag, or mouse scroll wheel. And mode functions, so whether you want it turned off, whether you want to transmit and receive, whether you want to transmit, receive, and listen to guard, or whether you want to use this for navigation and ADF. I think I might have got this one wrong here. So that's presets, that's manual selection. That must be talking to guard. Yeah, right, got it now. So if you want to if you want to use your presets, you want to use your manual selection. If you are in trouble, if you've been jumped by a fighter in combat or something, and you've got no time to set up your frequencies, you can quickly go to guard, and then this allows you to transmit on guard, which is I think 243 for these NATO fighters. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's what that is, and that's what that is. Right, got there in the end. TACAN, so this is our navigation system for tactical navigation, so we can change the digits to the middle here, left and right click, the tens digits here with the left and right click, bit of a funny selector that is, but it works. Mode off, receive only, transmit and receive air to air. I've got a full video on TACAN. Volume, lift and drag, press and drag, or mouse scroll wheel for the audible volume for checking the Morse code. IFF, nothing here is implemented, and I don't think it ever will be. ECM, electronic countermeasures, probably will be implemented, but nothing implemented yet. Compass adjustment, nothing implemented yet, probably will be at some point. UHF backup radio, as far as I'm aware, nothing implemented yet. Interior lights, we've got the instrument lights, click and drag or mouse scroll wheel, and the console lights, click and drag or mouse scroll wheel. Whether you want the floodlights, dim, medium, note that appears to be bugged, it's not working at the moment, but that will be the flood control light when it's working. Nothing works on... Oh, scratch it. Emergency generator bypass, so normal generator function or emergency generator function there. And that doesn't work. This is the AFAX, the automatic pilot test control panel. That doesn't stop moving. Doesn't work at the moment. Okay, lots of stuff here, anti-icing, stuff like that. Nothing here works at the moment. We've got air conditioning, temperature control, window de-icing. Nothing here works at the moment. Here we have exterior light panel, probe light. And I'm not sure what that is, but it may be the air-to-wear refueling light. Let me know if you can correct that, please. Taxi lights on or off. Anti-collision lights on or off. Fuselage lights. So we've got bright or dim. Wing lights, bright, dim. Sorry, I didn't do that very well. Fuselage lights, dim, off or bright. The same with wings, dim, off or bright. Tail, dim, off or bright. This chap here is flash or standby. Haven't worked out what that one does yet, so let me know if you know what that one, please. Floodlight in the cockpit adjuster here. Click and drag or mouse scroll wheel to do that. Looking about, have I missed anything? Aha! Basic strip magnetic compass here. And another clock there. No set or timer. Oh, yes, there are. How about that? Didn't know that. We have a stopwatch, and it works. Look at that. Brilliant. It's going to be useful for the labs, I imagine. Mirrors here that aren't working for me, but they do work. And that's it. My summary of the cockpit is it's one of my favourite cockpits. It's just the right amount of complex. It cuts out the superfluous bullcrap that you just don't need in a lot of planes, but it puts in everything you do need. It's absolutely perfect for me, which is one of the reasons why I love this plane so much. Everything's set out really well here. Everything's easy to... Well, not everything. The angle of attack's in the wrong place. But it's good, easy to remember. Weapons control panel, self-explanatory. Really big, fat knobs. Easy to click in combat. Can't get it wrong. Really good. Probably my favourite cockpit. Even better than the F5 in the entire of DCS at the moment. And also it looks good as well. As far as I can see, it looks as good a quality as the paid-for modules. So I'm really impressed. And the guys that did this for free, just, you know, legends, you know. Just really good guys, obviously. That's it. Go out there, fly it. Hopefully ED will allow it to exist. You know, it's a good way, obviously, of getting people into DCS, into the paid modules. So I say, go for it, help it. You know, it's a good thing, I believe. That's all I've got to say. I hope that helps. See you later.